Dude, thank you for doing this. I have a bazillion
Absolutely.
questions. Forewarning, I am a complete noob about multi-blind and about FMC, which is most of what we'll be talking about today. So
Okay.
there's going to be a lot of times where I ask questions that are just complete idiot questions.
Well,
I apologize
I'll
in
try my
advance.
best. Uh,
Okay,
I'll try my
cool.
best because I have been out of practicing for a while, but
Okay. Well, my first question is completely unrelated to cubing. But I found an IMDb page with your name on it and it had the annoying orange on it. Can you explain that connection?
yes. So that was I don't know what maybe that was like must have been 2010 or 2011. Uh, I was like I think I was 12, and there was this contest that Annoying Orange was doing where you would submit like you sang this line
Yeah.
to get a chance to be in the episode, and I ended up winning that contest and being in the start of an Annoying Orange episode. I think it's called Meteortron or something like that. I'm in like just the
Okay.
first 3 seconds or something. um, so yeah, a lot of
Gotcha.
people find that one and bring it up to me still.
Yeah. Now you've got the IMDb and everything. Celebrity
Yep,
status.
that's right. Yeah,
Okay.
I actually do have
Um,
another IMDb credit at this point because I do some video editing and I did some editing for this fishing show. So now I have that as well. Fortunately, it's not just the Annoying Orange.
promising career is forming, it sounds
Mhm.
like. So
Yep,
I
actor and
guess
editor.
there you go, actor, editor, and at least at one point former world class cuber.
Mhm.
I don't know how much you practice right now. I'd love to hear about it soon. But a couple of your accomplishments that are like especially notable. You were the first person to beat the 41 out of 41 multi-blind world record, which at that point was the longest standing cubing world record ever. It might still be. Um, and then you got the first sub 23 FMC mean and the second ever sub 18 FMC single. Both of those were world records at the time, which is really cool. Like you had world records in both of the, like, I would argue most like mentally intensive cubing events of all the
Mhm.
options. So, but in the research I did leading up to this episode, I also saw some interesting stuff that like the way you do multi is different because like something about the way that your mind processes visual information is different.
Right.
So I'm really curious, like how did you find cubing in general and when did you start zeroing in on multi? And then we can talk about like how you approach it and roadblocks and such.
Yeah. I remember with cubing in general, I I think it was just this thing of hearing, the Rubik's Cube is this impossible thing and thinking,
Hmm.
I want to go and like learn how to solve that, and finding Rob H0629's tutorial way back in the day.
Yeah.
um, and then a little while after that, my mom got me into the Michigan Cuban Club at University of Michigan, and I
Cool.
was it, and it was kind of open to it was mostly for students, but it was open to um, others as well. And I was a lot younger than all the college students there at the time,
Yeah.
so that was great for me to kind of socialize more because I didn't have a ton of like friends growing up, honestly. So cubing was a big thing for me, just making friendships, socializing with people. Um, and then as far as how I got into FMC and multi, I I definitely remember getting into FMC just because a lot of the people that I was hanging out with were into it, like Kit Clement and Ryan DeLine and Walker Welch and Jay McNeil. Like we would do um, now actually we hang out on Discord, but at that time it was Skype, and we would just
Hmm.
like do Skype calls and do the David Adams weekly FMC. It
Yes.
was just like a weekly scramble that we would do together. So um, that's how I got into FMC, and then I think probably getting into blind was just like, well, a lot of these FMC competitions also have blind events, like the PBQ, please be
Mm-hmm.
quiet competitions. So I think it um, probably just kind of happened by association.
Gotcha. So FMC was first. Interesting.
I believe it. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah. It's
Okay.
been a while, so it's hard for me to remember, but I'm pretty sure that was the timeline. Yeah.
Interesting. So can you explain what it is about the way that you process like visual information that's different from most people? I don't remember the term for it, and how that impacts how you solve multi.
Mhm. So it's called aphantasia,
Okay.
and it's basically the lack of a mind's eye. So, people talk about, um, well, like closing their eyes and visualizing things. Some people are even to the point where they can visualize things with their eyes open, which is crazy to me.
Hmm.
um, but for me, yeah, I could, you know, close my eyes, try to visualize something for minutes. It's not gonna come. Like there's not gonna be any kind of visual image there in my mind.
Okay.
Um, and for a long time, I had heard people talking about like, oh, I'm picturing this or I'm visualizing this, and I thought it was a figure of speech. I didn't realize
Yeah.
that people actually see something. Um, and it was kind of a big thing that I felt would be an obstacle for me in multi-blind because you
Kind
know
of a
the
huge thing.
yeah, because the way it works is you're taking these letter pairs, turning them into words and making like a story out of those words, and
Mm-hmm.
and if you can visualize that story and make it more memorable, that's you know obviously seems very helpful. um but actually later on I found out that a lot of the top multi-blinders like uh Mascow doesn't really visualize his memo, and Graham says he doesn't either.
Hmm.
Graham Siggins. So um I think just because you have to memorize things so quickly, um I don't know if it's that big of an impediment because to me it seems like visualizing would slow things down a bit, although that might just be me coping because I can't do it. I know that Stanley Chapel has the exact opposite. I think it's referred to as hyperphantasia. Like he can visualize things with such detail so immediately.
Mm,
Um, which makes me feel like if he just invests a little more time in multi-blind, maybe he'll destroy everyone the way he has
sure.
in big blind. But
Interesting. So, how do you do memo for normal blind, first of all? Because when
Mhm.
I do blind memo, it is all visual. Like I'm imagining all the pictures and the whole story in my head. Are you just like, does it just feel like you're storing letters? Are you still telling yourself a story, but you're remembering it more informationally than visually?
Yeah, it's definitely still a story with three blind. I guess it's fast enough that um sometimes I'm not focusing too much on the meaning of the words. Sometimes it's more I'm just kind of saying it to myself. Like it is a story, but not necessarily making a whole lot of sense. Um and then with multi blind, it's definitely a lot of focusing on the meanings or like the semantic connections between things, I guess is more how I do it. Like
Huh.
I'll kind of make as I'm making sentences, I'll make observations like, oh, it's strange that this person is, doing this thing in this memo. And those are kind of the things that help me to latch on to what I'm
Hmm.
memorizing. And that's kind of subconscious, I think. I'm not really I guess I don't really have the time to like sit there and think, okay, it's strange this is happening in this memo.
Mm-hmm.
But I think um instead of thinking of things very visually, I'm thinking in terms of like the logic of the memo in a way.
Okay. So, if you make a mistake in the middle of a big multi attempt, what is normally the source of the error?
Uh I definitely have a lot of just forgetting, just especially in the really bad attempts, it's usually the memo just isn't sticking. And we'll probably talk about that a little more because it's something that's very mysterious to me. Like I can't really figure out why sometimes I'm really on my game and sometimes um, memo just isn't sticking and I'll forget 10 or 20 cubes or something. Um, I actually get a lot of inverse com errors, just like doing the inverse of the algorithm I'm supposed to
Mm-hmm.
do. Or in edges, like doing the mirror image of the com. So lots of execution errors like that. Uh, and sometimes it'll be I miss a letter pair in recall or mix up one letter pair for another, like just
Yeah.
confuse one word for another.
So when you forget a chunk of your memo, it's literally just like there's a blank space in the memo. Because like my reference is so limited. It's like doing blind for individual cubes. But if I forget a chunk of memo, it's like I'm imagining this dog who's playing basketball with LeBron James in my story, and then the story just stops. Like it's like I'm watching a movie and the movie
Right.
freezes, and it's like, what happens next? Like I know something
Right.
happens next, but I can't tell. But like it's totally visual for me. So you're saying you
I
memorize
see.
more like logically. You kind of take note of how things are interacting informationally, but then they'll just be like what do you mean? I'm trying to understand this.
I think a big thing that'll happen. So with multi-blind, I'm using Roman rooms to memorize. So I have like sets of locations that the stories are happening in. And one type of forgetting error is just getting to the room and not knowing what memo is in that location. So forgetting the entire, edge memo or corner memo.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I think it's not too different from what you're describing. Sometimes if I remember the first part, like especially an edge memo. So I do each edge memo is its own story. Some
Yes.
people break it up, like make it two different sentences, but I make it one sentence. So sometimes those can be quite long and it'll be almost kind of like two clauses, like, this person's doing this and this is happening. And I might forget that kind of connection. Like I might get the first few letter pairs and be like, okay, and then something else was happening that I didn't do a good enough job associating with the first thing. Um, so I think it's not too different from, you know, like you said, getting to, like for you, it's like getting to the part in the movie and it pauses. For me, it's, I guess, like I'm speaking it to myself and it just kind of stops. So
Huh.
sometimes that happens. Yeah.
How did you learn three style? How long did you learn it after you started, and what was the process like?
Um, I definitely remember watching Noah Arthur's tutorial on it. Um, I can't really remember the exact timeline. It was probably about a year after I first learned to do three blind, if I had to guess.
Okay.
And at the start, I was just kind of making my own algs, which was kind of the advice at the time was just, um, learn how these 8 movers work and then kind of figure out your own setups to them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and at that time, I was using uh, UBL and DF as my buffers just because that's what you start with when you're doing M2 and Old Pachman.
Right.
So later on, I had to switch buffers to UFR,
Hmm.
which was its own whole process. Ishan Agarwal was really helpful at that time. Like I talked with him a lot about like speed optimal algs and advice about switching buffers. And that was really when I started to try and improve my execution because before that I was a lot more interested in speeding up my memo and kind of optimizing letter pairs and stuff like that.
How did your split of memo versus exec compare to other fast multi-blind solvers?
I think my exec was pretty slow even when I got the 43 out of 44 world record. I think my exec was pretty slow in comparison to memo. Definitely very slow in comparison to what the splits are now. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know with like Graham and Rowe, their execution is really fast in relation to memo compared to what I was getting at the time. I could look it up because I think I have it like in the descriptions of all of my
Sure.
videos and stuff. But I think the fastest I ever got my execution down to was like 23 or 24 seconds per cube. And, now people are getting into like 16 seconds per cube, 15 seconds per cube.
Yeah. What do like the current top 3 to 5 multi-blinders have that you don't or you didn't when you were peaking in skill?
I think definitely with Rowe, I feel like probably just raw like mechanical ability to turn. I mean, obviously he had a lot of experience with 3x3 and other speed events that probably helped a lot.
Yes.
And probably the same for Graham as well. As far as memo, I know that I was always thinking that the meta was going to be reducing the number of reviews. So getting to a point where each cube you're looking at maybe only 3 times and optimizing that. But now it's actually gone in the other direction where I think people are generally doing 5 pass or maybe even 6 pass with large attempts.
Interesting.
So it seems like the way to push into these higher numbers like 60s and even potentially 70 is to review a lot of times but really, really fast. So I think that's another big thing is that's just not something I had really tried to do. So I don't know. I don't know if I were to try that now. I'm not sure how it would go.
Sure.
Yeah.
If you had to do more than one multi-attempt in the same day, did they blur? Because top solvers I've heard who do, or in the same, weekend where you had multiple at a long competition, they talk about having multiple setups for their Roman rooms where they'll have multiple palaces they'll go through. If you didn't have that framework, like what did you do?
Right. Yeah, I never had multiple sets of Roman rooms for my attempts, which was also probably a bad idea. I wish I could give a good answer, but I never
Oh, it's fine if
really
there isn't one. I was just like, did you prepare for this uniquely? Did it ever frustrate you? But I guess it just sounds like not something you had to think about that much.
It did frustrate me sometimes. I would say definitely in the same day was an issue. If it was like 2 attempts on back-to-back days, not so bad. Sometimes I would get moments where they would blur and I'd get to a location and the memo from last attempt would be stronger and I would kind of remember that first. But I think with good think ahead I was able to deal with that most of the time. But yeah, so it's definitely was an issue from time to time, that's for sure.
All right. How long did it take you before you started to think like, I want to train toward getting a world record? Because at the time, if you wanted a multi-world record, you had to be like pretty ambitious to reach for it, considering how good the world record was.
Yeah. I think a big thing was having the stepping stone of North American record. So at first I was kind of, I think there's a little bit of a connection to the way I first learned to solve the Rubik's Cube, where I had heard of it as like this impossible thing. Everyone says how difficult the Rubik's Cube is. And there was a similar appeal with multi-blind where, people were talking about, oh, Mascow's just a machine. How is any human going to beat this record? And now it's like, now the record's 50% more points than that.
Yes.
But yeah, I think having the stepping stone of North American record, like, okay, that I remember was 21 points at the time. So that was a somewhat attainable goal to look at. And then once I started to push past that, there was also, I just remember no one else really seriously going for multi-blind world record at the time. So that was a little bit of motivation too, where I was like, oh, I could just kind of train this for a while and no one's really going for it,
Yeah.
And maybe just see where it takes me. And then some more people kind of joined in to the race, like Shivam Bonsall and Graham and Kamil Shabilsky.
Yep. I'm looking at the profile, and the first NAR you got was 24 points, 24 out of 24. So that's like half of what the world record ended up being. So you're right. That's a massive stepping stone in terms of how difficult they were. Yeah.
And I think that 24 out of 24 was third in the world at the time. Like, just to give an idea of how big
that's crazy.
I think it was. It was something like that.
Wait, did the world record exist at that? It did. Holy cow. Okay, so I'm starting to realize how incredible that record is. Like, I wasn't actively cubing at the time, really.
Right.
That's ridiculous. He got, wow.
I think Kamil was second with, I want to say 28 out of 30. I think the second place was like 26 points or something. Like, Mascot was just absolutely in a league of his own.
Man.
Yeah.
Wow. That's unbelievable that he was that like dialed so far ahead of the competition being at that point.
He was unbelievably dominant. Yeah.
Are there more resources for people to improve at multi now, or is it just competition is better, so people try harder to get better at the top?
So I have been out of practicing for a little bit, so maybe there's been some great resources come out, so I don't want to say, as far as I'm aware though, I don't think there's, I think there's much better resources for like FMC. But with multi-blind, I don't know of one like central, like, here's a Google Doc, with everything, or here's a, I think it's, there's a bigger community of people kind of theory crafting about it and like sharing review systems and stuff like that. And there's definitely a lot of good resources for, like speed optimal 3-style algs and floating buffer and letter pair images and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's probably just that it's so much more competitive and kind of the community of people like sharing strategies and stuff like that. But if there are great resources on it, I'm not
unaware
familiar with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Change subjects. What is Verasano's?
That is a pizza place in, I think it's in Georgia. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was in Georgia, by the creator of, or I think there might be was there some controversy over whether he's the creator of the 2x2 method or not?
I know that there was at some point people were like, it's Verasano, not Ortega. And I was like, okay,
Okay.
I just know that it's called Ortega, and I'm just gonna keep saying the word I know it's called, and that kind of stopped. I don't
Okay.
know. I'm the wrong guy to ask.
Okay, maybe I actually I might be mixed up then. Maybe it's the controversy as to whether it's Ortega then. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
But
that.
yeah, it's owned by that guy, and we went
It is the
after a
Rubik's Cube
competition.
guy. It is the 2x2
Yeah,
method guy.
yeah. So we
Whoa.
went to his place after a competition, and he was very talkative. He was he's a pretty interesting guy. He was talking about, and that was in because that was my WCA profile picture was there. I think that picture was probably like 2017 or 2018, and I remember him talking about like he was working on machine learning and some like AI he was working on before that's gotten huge
He owned a pizza
now.
place?
So, huh?
He owned a
Yeah,
pizza place.
yeah, yeah,
Interesting dude. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So you just had a competition at the pizza place because it was named after the 2x2 guy, or it was his
It
place?
was the competition was nearby, and we like went afterwards. Yeah,
Okay. I feel like you'd have to though. That's really funny.
yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I want to hear about FMC now. And I know some about multi. I know nothing about FMC. Like nothing.
Okay.
So first off, how have the methods changed from when you were competing seriously versus now? Because it sounds like Jay and some of these other guys were already thinking hard about FMC when you were competing, in 16, 17, 18, 19. How have things changed since then?
The biggest thing is definitely domino reduction becoming like easily the dominant method and approach. When I was competing seriously, it was kind of the Wild West as far as methods go. Like people were doing block building, some people were doing corners first stuff, a lot of solves were doing edge orientation first, but not. I mean, there just wasn't like each of my solutions could have been very different from the last. There wasn't like one method that the top solvers would kind of approach
Yes.
with, which I've kind of found more fun. I have done solves with domino reduction now. I've been a little bit out of practicing recently, so there's a lot of new techniques that have been developed that I'm just not that familiar with.
What is DR? I've heard the term. I know it's the new meta. I know that it's different, but can you attempt to explain it for me and for everyone listening?
Sure. So DR is like, let's see, if you reduce a cube to, I don't know if that's showing well on my camera.
There we go.
But basically like R2s, F2s, B2s, L2s, U's and D's.
Got it.
So no quarter turns. So getting it to a point where it can be solvable with that moveset, and you're effectively reducing it to a domino cube, like a 2x3x3.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, generally the approach now is getting to a point where you can do some kind of trigger, like being like an RU R prime away from domino reduction, like kind of setting up to that. And then generally getting to half turn reduction, and then getting to a point where you just have like the middle slice of edges unsolved, and you can usually insert slice moves to like widen U moves and D moves to solve those last 3 or 4 edges.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of, I guess, like the best summary I can give of the approach.
I understand the theory. Okay. So the hard part is just learning to find paths from scrambled state into trigger away from DR.
Yeah.
Or whatever that state is called.
yeah, the most intensive the most intensive part now is like you basically have to write down literally dozens of different EOs. So like a few moves to get to edge orientation, and
Hmm.
then be really good at identifying which of those might lead to good uh triggers to domino reduction, and it really can feel like you're solving it like a computer now, I feel like.
Huh. How many of those EO solutions are fast solvers checking in a given solve?
I think that I the top solvers check a lot. I think I don't know if it's changed now, but I feel like in solves I was doing with Jay, he would be looking at like, 50, 60, 70 plus.
Man, that's crazy. It's got to be really fast.
Yeah, I never got to that point with it. I was always like, yeah, I looked at 20 maybe, you know.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't know if I have what it takes for keeping up with the DR solvers now.
Yeah. How much do
And
you
I
cube
I
now?
might even be out of date with the meta. Maybe everyone's watching this like we look at 200 EOs now.
Yeah. How much do you cube now?
um I'll do a lot of like just doing 3 style Alex on a cube, like while I'm watching YouTube or whatever. I'll just kind of have a cube in my hand
Mm-hmm.
and do
Sure.
that. But as far as sitting down for solves, I really haven't in quite a while. I really tend to just do it before like major competitions and stuff. So I'm thinking about trying to get a little practice in before um, North American champs, but definitely haven't been like training seriously in a while.
Sure. But you're going.
Yeah. Hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where are you at in life right now? Like your WCA profile goes back a lot of years. I'm trying to figure out like how old were you when you started competing and then where are you at now?
I think I was I think I was 15 when I started competing. And I'm 27 now.
Okay. Cool. So I assume done with school and working or something like that?
Yep, I'm doing freelance video editing work right now. So I do a lot of stuff for the Detroit Zoo currently. I do a lot of just like commercials and social media spots and stuff like that.
Nice. Okay. Um Did you intentionally like target getting a world record in FMC as well as like the same way that you did with multi, or did that kind of just happen?
I think I think with FMC, um, not that I didn't love doing multi-blind, but I think with FMC it was even more just like I really loved the event. So I just
Yeah.
kind of ended up really grinding it because I was just kind of obsessed with it, doing like
Mm-hmm.
multiple attempts a
Mm-hmm.
day. Um, I think with FMC, it's hard to kind of call your shots with it. With multi-blind, you can go and be like, well, I'm attempting 44 cubes, so a world record could
Yes,
happen.
you got it. We'll see what happens today.
Yeah. But with FMC, it's you kind of just really need to put in your hours, I think, and travel to a lot of competitions, to get a lot of cracks at it, a lot of different scrambles.
Right.
And I mean now it's even harder because, there's just so many people that are, world class. So especially like like I think it's just about impossible to guarantee like a world championships podium at FMC now. Like there's probably 15, 20 people that could podium, I mean, maybe it's not quite that many, but it's like, yeah, it's very difficult to guarantee world championships podiums or records in FMC now with it being so competitive.
Hmm. How how much does scramble luck affect competitors now versus when you were competing? Like, do the new methods make it less scramble variant or more, or is it the same thing?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, there's definitely a big element as far as, a scramble is just going to have an optimal, solution. Like, you're not going to get a 17 on an 18 move optimal scramble,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now the DR is making it to where optimal solutions are, more likely to be potentially findable by people. I guess that's a big factor, especially if
Right.
you're going for world records.
Right. Like, obviously
Um,
there's that component that, like, the
yeah.
optimal scramble, the optimal move count is actually something that competitors are finding. So
Hmm.
that can limit you. But I'm also
Right.
thinking about just like, does the method make it like with CFOP versus ZB, people who
Hmm.
use ZB at the top level are starting to have less and less opportunities for luck to influence their solve because the method is so find the optimal line and brute force your way there via knowledge and algorithms. Is
Right.
that the case with FMC or not so much?
I think so. Yeah. I think that the variance is lower now for the people who are, really at the top now. Because I don't know. I remember back in the day, like if edge orientation was really bad on a scramble or there just weren't blocks or something like that, I could end up just not really finding anything or being in
Mm-hmm.
the high 20s or whatever, or I could end up being in the low 20s, if I got lucky and that kind of thing. So I think the variance is definitely way lower now.
Hmm. Very cool. What keeps you coming back to cubing? Like you're still going to NAC, which is like if you don't practice, but you're making the trip all the way out, um, something's keeping you back, and it doesn't sound like it's getting a world record again.
Right. Yeah. It's I mean, a big part of it is just, I like to keep in touch with my friends and the community and everything like that. And it is just inspiring to see the people that are still sticking with it, like especially Graham Siggins. I don't know how he's keeping up the multi-blind grind this long. Like um I don't know. I just can't imagine practicing that consistently for this many years. Like I'm getting burnt out on it.
Yes.
I just so that's cool to go and see the people who are still sticking with it. And honestly, every time I go to a major competition, I still get the like after comp motivation where I'm like, and I'm gonna go train for this again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it usually dies off, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It's still fun to see everyone, and it's still fun, like feeling how much community there is around it. It gets you going a little bit on your own, at least.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Nice. Are there things that I haven't asked about that you would love to talk about while we're here?
Uh, I don't know. I think you've done a pretty good job of covering the bases, to be honest.
Great.
Uh,
Um,
yeah.
what sort of stuff do you want? Are there people that you want to see me interview that I haven't yet? Because I hope to do lots of these. Um,
Right.
but the kids now have like a limited number of people that they're interested in doing. I just posted one that I did with Lars Vandenberg, which was like one of my favorites I've done so far. And he's
Nice.
been around since literally the first WCA competitions. Are
Mhm.
there people that you think it'd be fun to have me talk to?
Um, I definitely, I think for me personally, I would definitely find other blinders and multi-blinders pretty interesting, like Graham or I don't know if you could get a hold of Mascow at this point, but um that that would be interesting to. I mean, that's kind of a selfish answer
Oh,
for me because I don't
I
know.
asked for a selfish answer.
Sure, yeah, I don't know how much wide appeal there'd be to like a more multi-blind focused conversations, but I think those would be cool. Or probably hearing from people that are actually still into practicing FMC, just because uh, the techniques are so complicated now. They could probably give a pretty interesting rundown of that.
Yeah, I do need to get some FMC people on here. I know James McDarmid watches my stuff, and I know obviously I live less than an hour away from Graham. He's at a lot of the comps I go to, so I should probably grab him at some point. Okay, cool. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
That'll be at least a month away. I've got the next 4 scheduled out.
Nice.
Cool. Any last call? Any other questions or topics you wanted to chat about? If not, it's totally cool.
No, I think you did a good job covering the bases and asking some good questions. And
sweet. Okay. Well,
I appreciate you having me on.
Dude, absolutely. Well, I ask everyone the same question at the end of these conversations, which is, what aspect of cubing gives you the deepest joy?
Ooh. I think it's a couple things. I mean, learning new things is a big one. I really like just learning new algs, learning new methods and techniques. And I also like the really analytical side of it, especially with multi-blind. I always liked going through here's where I can save 2 seconds per cube and stuff that just those tiny little things. But nowadays, like I said, it's probably mostly just the friendships I've made, and the community as a whole is probably the part that's keeping me around now.